One of the fears that many people have when they're first quitting smoking is they're going to lose their edge. They're not going to be as productive after they quit smoking as they were when they were smokers. And there's a lot of people who feel this way. The reality of the situation, though, most people, when they quit smoking, will become much more productive after they quit smoking than they ever were while they were still smoking. Now, I'm not talking about the week they're quitting smoking. The week they're quitting smoking, they're not very productive at all. As a matter of fact, if they are very productive, if they find themselves getting loads of work done, they should spend part of the second week after they quit smoking going over everything they did with a fine-tooth comb. Because just because they did a lot of work that first week doesn't mean they were doing it correctly. In a sense, the week a person is quitting smoking, they're not playing with a full deck. Things aren't working right. Their timing is off, their logic may be off. And while they may have gotten a lot of writing done, it may all be gibberish when you go back and look back in retrospect. But again, that's not because this is what they're going to be like the rest of their life because they don't smoke anymore. See, that's what they were like as a smoker in a drug withdrawal state. Their blood sugar was haywire. They were out of focus. Their timing was off, and things may have been thrown off a little bit. These are very short-term reactions. The fear that people have, though, is they'll never be as productive. In the past, there were certain behaviors that smokers had that made them think that they were able to think better, or at least like they were able to look like they were thinking better. And I say this in the past. This is no longer true, but I've been doing clinics for a long time. And I can remember 20 or 30 years ago when everybody seemed to be smoking. And it was never everybody seemed to be smoking. Although you go back long enough, in 1964, it was over half the men in the United States were smoking. It was a majority. But when you go back to a time frame like that, if you were to ask a smoker a question and they didn't know an answer, oh, they had this great technique. What they would do, they couldn't think of an answer, and they didn't want to, look befuddled. So what they did is they'd kind of reach into their pocket, and they'd take a pack out and they'd play with it, looking thoughtful this whole time period. Maybe take the cigarette, put it in your mouth, light the cigarette. Take a deep breath, hold the smoke in. They're still contemplating this, real intelligent answer. And then they'd blow the smoke out, and then they'd give you the answer. And it would look like, oh, look how that helped them think. And this is the impression they would want to be giving. And this is the impression that people were taking, like how thoughtful they could be. Now, so many people are closet smokers. So many people don't want people knowing that they are smokers that this isn't an action you're going to see when someone doesn't know an answer to a question. It looks like they're, something's wrong with it, but they have to go for a cigarette because of this. It looks like they're nervous because they're going for a cigarette. But in the past, that wasn't the way this was viewed. But that's the past, and we got to work in today's terms. Most people, again, when they would first quit smoking back at that point in time, when they used to always be able to have a cigarette to think with, what they would do the week they would quit smoking, somebody would ask them a question, and all of a sudden they'd be reaching in their pocket and panicking because they don't smoke anymore, and they wouldn't know what to do next, and that would throw them. But like I say, this isn't really as big of an issue now as it was at that point in time. The issue that occurs now, though, which is very interesting, there's a lot of people who think that they need cigarettes to start a project or to finish the project. What would happen and how this became a belief, if whatever job you do, whatever job you're working on, whether it's at work or at home, if it requires any sort of brain power whatsoever, any sort of thought, here's what happens to a smoker. They'll take a cigarette, they'll smoke, they'll get their nicotine level up. Now they start on this project. If the project takes 15 or 20 minutes, here's what's going to occur. When you start like a thought process, something that requires, again, really concentration, you'll start on the project, your nicotine level's fine, and you start to, think about what you need to be doing, and you'll start the writing, you'll start the painting, you'll start whatever this creative force is that you're working on, you'll start it, and then you'll get 15 to 20 minutes into the project, whatever it is, and all of a sudden, your nicotine level is dropping. Now, you don't know your nicotine level is dropping. The thought that's going through your mind is, oh, I think I need a break. I think I better take a cigarette. So you stop what you're doing. You go wherever you have to go to get the cigarette because you may be in a place where you can't smoke. You're wasting that time in the commute to the location. Then you smoke one, maybe two, because you might have to be in this building again for a little bit longer. That takes a little bit more time. Then you walk back to where you're at. Your nicotine level's fine. Takes you a few minutes to get into really peak levels again. It takes time to get your focus up and to get back to where you were. You're good for about 15, 20 minutes, then all of a sudden, your nicotine level's gone again. And, oh, I think I need a break. I think I'll take a cigarette. You stop what you're doing, you repeat that behavior again. You go out to smoke a cigarette. What's happening here is you keep starting projects and not finishing them. You have to keep taking these breaks. And this is the thought going through your head. I think I need a break. I'll go take a cigarette. What's going to be interesting is when you quit smoking, you'll find out what really happens. Again, not the week you quit, then you're not working well. But after you get that week down and now you start really doing your day-to-day thought processes, your day-to-day routines, you'll start a project, and for the first time possibly in years, you'll finish the project straight on. You'll just hit it and tackle it, and it's over with. No breaks, nothing. And all of a sudden you'll start to realize it was never that you were needing breaks so you had to go take a cigarette. You were needing cigarettes and having to go take breaks. This was messing up your productivity. Even if it's not a thought process we're dealing with. If it's something like mowing your lawn, you used to get to a certain section, and if it took, if the lawn would normally be large enough where it would take you an hour to do it, 20 minutes into the routine, oh, you're tired now, you need a break, you'll take a cigarette. Same thing. You stop what you're doing, you smoke the cigarette, and you take that time out, and then you repeat that maybe 2 or 3 more times during, that long process. Well, the first time you quit smoking and you do this lawn, all of a sudden, you can do the whole lawn without this break. You will find yourselves getting things done much quicker than before. So this fear that, somehow your productivity is going to go out the window, again, it's based on a false premise. It's because in the past, if you didn't have those breaks, you were in withdrawal, and you were not going to get out of withdrawal until you smoked. That's where people who are forced to be in positions where they're not allowed to smoke and they get projects that require them to stay in that position, hey, that tail end of their project, if they're not getting the breaks, they're dealing with these projects in a withdrawal state, and that may have been a chronic condition. That may have been happening every day of their life while they were still smoking. Once they quit smoking, yeah, the first week is awkward, but after that, they never deal with that withdrawal state and trying to be productive again. They will become more productive over the rest of their life, in all probability, than they ever were as a smoker. And then, to keep this new level of productivity, along with all the other health benefits, social benefits, aesthetic benefits, to keep all of these benefits, is just as simple now as just making and sticking to that personal commitment to never take another puff.